Before we get started, we want to thank our partners and sponsors. We're grateful for the partnership of University of Wisconsin Green Bay's First Nations program and Dr. Lisa Poupart, who recommended the slate of speakers for this year's series. We're also appreciative of the support of the Door County Civility Project, and live streaming for the series is sponsored by Jim and Kathleen Steele. Please join me in giving all of these partners a round of applause. All of us hope to see you back here next Saturday morning for the second talk in the series, Potawatomi Nation Through Time. At this time, please take a moment to silence all mobile devices while I introduce our guests. We're so pleased to have with us this morning Margaret Rose Ellis and Mirac Ellis. Margaret received her BS from Haskell Indian Nations University and MA in Global Indigenous Nations Studies Environmental Science from University of Kansas, and she is currently pursuing her doctorate of education at UWGB. Mirac teaches earth songs, otherwise known as social dance songs, at Oneida Nation High School and is a faith keeper for the Oneida Nation. Margaret and Mirac together have 4 children, Margie, Marcaine, Mason, and Maria. We're so happy to have their family with us in Door County this weekend. Welcome, Margaret and Mirac.
Hello, can you hear me? All right. Saguli swagwake. Hello, everyone. Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte. Neungyats, neungwehue. My Oneida name is Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte, and that means wild rose. And the literal translation of that is hot nest. So our language is very descriptive, and so the hot nest refers to the wild rose. And in times past, when I do introductions, people thought I was saying hotness. So either way, I'll take it. We are from the people of the standing stone, and the literal translation of that is people of the standing stone is the land and earth we come from. And we are Oneida, that is the English name. What else? So this means I reside along the Duck Creek. This is a way to distinguish ourselves from the Oneidas of Canada and the Oneidas of New York. And so later on in the presentation, we'll talk about those distinctions. So I have with me today my husband, Ixtaha, Shako'tsyuntha Luwayats, Neungwehue. His Oneida name is Shako'tsyuntha, and it means he heals them. Mirac Ellis Luwayats, Ne Otslu'nige. His English name is Mirac Ellis, and he is also Oneida, and a little bit of Polish, right? So it is tradition to, excuse me, to begin with Ganahila Dunksla.
So, good morning, everybody. Usually before we do anything, it's called Words Before All Else, or the opening address. And what we do is we give thanks to about 19 elements in natural elements that are here on this earth. Our intentions is that we are only visitors on this planet Earth, and everything that grows here, it gives us life sustenance. So before we do any type of gatherings or social dances or weddings, we always put the words in front of Ohandu Kaliwadekwa Kanahela Dunksla. So words before all else. So I will try my best. I still learn every single day. I'm still learning. So this will be in Oneida language, Oneida, Jitniondwatpanoda. So it'll be about 5 minutes, and then I'll translate what everything is after that. Onagui nes what the Honsio second joke nega ris. Neno handu jik natte galiwade quat nega iga nega nehela dunksla. Ne wahonize ne lauha sumpaya bizo ne sumquaqui ne skana yung banoctuni. Nopi sego, nen nekahawi, nen ganto jikno yungaya Ellis nakwa, nen awadu, nen skahnikula, nen awadu. Daoska, aibwakwi nuni, ne yungwahnigu, da hetone heladu, ne sungaya tizu, ne sungwakwi skana yungwanohtuni, ne nawakodaze, ganto yunkino hako honja, jisego lonadli watanje duhadi, da tonio duhat ne yungwahnigu. Dauna ne tenu, ne tkayeli hondwat bunizade, ne jihnate, ne ga ega, ne oneguli suha, ne onungkwatogu, ne katnio hondesa awahi, ne asanate gundah nundele, ne o yungkwat nungwe. Daoska, aidwahwe nuni, ne yungwahnigu, da hetone heladu, ne agwegu ganto yukino ha o honja, ne yungwali hoa naktu, disegu lonatli watanje duhadi, dani tonio duhat ne yungwahnigu. Dauna ne tenu, ne tkayeli hondwat bunizade, ne jihnate, ne wahonize, ne lauha sungkwayat dizu, ne sungkwayan toze, ne nyahte kalundak, ne sagodli honde, ne wata johandu agwegu, ne galunda suha, ne gungwitene, ne yotalihat daskoela wali, ne ungahnigalige, ne honukwatogu, kadoga, ne oses. Daos kay wakwit nuni, ne yungwahnigu, de hetone heladu, nen yahte galundak, nen wata johandu agwegu galunda suha, jisegu lonatu watan jedu hadi, dani tonio duhak ne yungwahnigu. Dauna ne tenu, nen tkayeli hundwat wanizade, jinate, nega ega, nen hojita hasu, nen yungkwatundege, nen ladilanokta, nen ladilatnioze, nen galanio, dahnu, nen honungkwatogu, ne wahunize lauha sungkwayat dezo sagodli hunde, nen adunyat, nen johandu, nen agwegu kajita sloda. Da oska, idwakwit nuni, ne yungwahnigu, da hetone heladu, ne hojita hasu, jisegu, lonatli watanjedu hadi, dani tonio duhak ne yungwahnigu. Dauna ne tenu, ne tkayeli hundwat wanizade, nen jihnate, nega ega, ne kundilio suha, ne wahunize, nen lauha sungkwayat dizo sagodli honde, nen oskanundu, johandu, agwegu, nen kundilio suha. Da oskaid wakwit nuni, ne yungwahnigu, da hetone heladu, nen kundilio suha, ne oskanundu, johandu, agwegu, kundili, jisegu, lonadli watanjedu hadi, dani tonio duhak ne yungwahnigu. Dauna ne tenu, ne tkayeli hundwat wanizade, jihnate, nega iga, ne ohnega no sogu, ne wetnisla deni, ne gwasunda deni, ne undwahni gilha, ne honungkwatogu, nega iga, ne ohnega no sogu. Daos kaid wakwit nuni, ne yungwahnigu, de hetone heladu, ne ohnega no sogu, ne junhekwa, dahnu, ne onungkwatogu, jisegu lonadli watanje duhadi, dani tonio duhak ne yungwahnigu. Dauna ne tenu, ne tkayeli ondwat wanizade, ne jitnate, nega iga, ne enege galunyage, ne ladisa gayundese, ne sungkwahwi, ne yoganoleze, ne nawakwadaze, ne wetnisla deni gwasunda deni, ne galunyage. Da oskaid wahwit nuni, ne yungwahnigu, de hetone heladu, ne ladisa gayundeze, sungkwahwi, yoganoleze, ne junhekwa, ne nagwegu ganto, yunkino ha o honja, jisegu, lonadli watanjedu hadi, dani tonio duhak ne yungwahnigu. Dauna ne tenu, ne tkayeli hundwat wanizade, ne jihnate, enege galunyage, ne lauha, ne loska hagete go, hetwah jiha, ne sungkwahwi, ne yotalihat daskawela wali, ne gayetegen hatsla, ne adun hetsla, ne ngungwihtene. Daoska, idwakwit nuni, ne yungwahnigu, da hetone heladu, ne sungkwajiha, gwahte geka wehnida, jisegu, lonatli watanjedu hadi, dani tonio duhak ne yungwahnigu. Dauna ne tenu, ne tkayeli hundwat wanizade, ne jitnate enege galunyage, ne nyuki sota gwa asunda geka wehnida, ne joganohtun, ne oskanhe, ne ganto yunkinoha o honja, ne gahnega wanaze. Da oskaid wakwit nuni, ne yungwahnigu, da yetino heladu, ne yunki sota gwa asunda geka wehnida, jisegu yagonadli watanjedu hadi, dani tonio duhak ne yungwahnigu. Dauna ne tenu, ne tkayeli hundwat wanizade, enege galunyage, ne yodistokwalu, ne ohaha hiyo, ne nyukwasi dagaslakwa, ne lauha sungwayat dizo tada honjade. Daoskaid wakwit nuni, ne yungwahnigu, de hetone heladu, ne yodistokwalu, jisegu lonatli watanjedu hadi, dani tonio duhak ne yungwahnigu. Down the tenu, ne kayeli hundwat punizade, ne eneke kaluyage, ne kayeni hunungwe dak ladilu yake lolu. Nen sagat, nen dedwayak tegen has, nen ganjokwa gwego, ganto yukino ha opunja. Nen gayat tegen hatsa, ne skana yung wanohuni, dafnu nen gununung kwasa, nen ladik sasu, nen lodik stofugu, nen nawakwadaze, nen lonadli watan jedu, nen jik yung galihoda, dafnu nen jik yung watpanoda. Daos kaid wafwait nuni, ne yung gwahnigu, da hetona heladu, ne gayeni hunungwe dak ladilu yake lolu, ne sakgato ganto yukino ha oponja, ne andi nagwa, ne otole nagwa, ne jite dwa santos nagwa, ne jite kakge tos nagwa, ne ganto yukino ha oponja, jise golo nadli watan jedu hari, dani tonyo duhak ne yung watnigo. Dauna ne tenu ne kayeli hundwat punizade, jihnake, ne ga iga sungkwayat dizu, ne wahunize sungkwakwi ole wagwego lawayandam. Ne wahalu, ne ize kanjokwa, ne lonadli watan jedu, ne witness ladeni, ne wasunda deni, ne jitni yung walihoda, ne jitni yung watponoda, ne jigaya, ne ladik sasu, ne na yung kwatun dege. Daoska, haid wahwit nuni, ne yung wahnigu, da hetone heladu, ne sungkwayat dizu, sungkwakwi ole wagwego, lawayandam, ne ganto, yukino haho ponja, jisegu lonadli watan jedu hadi, dani tonyo duhak ne yung watnigo. Das wala ke kanjok, ne tonyo le, ne wagadli watne gaze, ne gana heladungsla. Ezo Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte, ne wagadwanun dakwat ne ganto, ne Door County, ne ni wagadahum jod, dafnu ne Yamagogi wa ne nize, ne ganjokwa, ne na yunkwatundege, ne ganto, ne wetnislade, ize, ne Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte, ni agosanoda, awadu, asatpanundakwa ne saha gawaninyoze, dani tonyo duhak ne watnigo, dani tonyo.
So that's the short version. Do you want to do a brief explanation, or do you want?
Oh yeah.
So on the slide, you can see this is what he went through in his speech, and he's extending his thankfulness and gratitude towards all the elements that are listed there. Did you want to explain?
Oh, yeah. So the very first and foremost thing that we always do is we come together as one mind, as we all are here in this room. So it's kind of like saying we're on the same page. This is what I've been taught, I guess, or learned along with my teachings. And the very first thing we do is the words before all else. And it's just, well, mine was 5 minutes-ish, is that what it was? But some can go on for 2 hours, because what they do is they get very detailed, all the way from the shortest blade of grass to the smallest insect, all the way to when the dinosaurs used to roam the earth. It's translated to big bodies. And so everything that is here, all the medicines, all this put together, that's what we go through. Very first one is our mother, the earth. She has a lot of responsibilities, and right now it's winter time, so she's sleeping, she's resting, the ground is resting. Everything is getting prepared for our growing season, which brings us into the three sisters, the corns, the beans, and the squash, and all that which entails of when you plant them together, of all the steps that go through that and why they are planted together. Recently, somebody asked, what kind of grass do we give thanks to? And I said, well, not our lawns that we put lawn stripes in and stuff. I said, so, well, it was explained that each and every one of them blades of grass out there is living, and it has a spirit. And that's what we are giving thanks to, from the small, to the seed that's just growing, all the way to the tall grass, the short grass, the shrubs, the bushes, because all that stuff can be used for medicinal purposes. The strawberry is the leader berry. It is the first berry to come back to the earth, and we have a strawberry ceremony specifically for that. And we also refer to it as medicine because the juice inside of the strawberry is the medicines. We mix that with maple syrup, and it's kind of like a renewal because of the power that it holds inside. Some people just say it's strawberry, but yeah, when you think about it, and there's a certain type of sickness, sometimes that strawberry drink is what is used to help cure that sickness. So then it falls into the medicines, all the way from roots of certain willow trees, willow bark, pine needles, so on and so on. That one's a whole PhD all right along with it. And next you see with the tobacco, so I'm a high school teacher and I always got to relate to the students. So I say not Newport tobacco, not Marlboros. Now the electronic cigarettes, so we don't give thanks to that. The tobacco is what we use to communicate with the greater forces, the higher powers, the Creator. So when we burn the tobacco, what we say, it pierces the sky. And when he sees that, he's looking down, he sees that, he knows to pay extra special attention of what's going on, such as a healing ceremony, such as the annual ceremonies, or so on and so on. The trees, everybody who's into, so the trees and the maple trees, what I mentioned is that a long time ago, the Creator appointed this certain type of tree, the maple tree, of the leader of all the tree kingdom. In the springtime, when the warm winds will stir, it pushes out or it spews out this certain type of medicine, the maple sap. And everybody knows how big that season is, especially from, I guess from up here too. Everywhere you look, there's maple trees. Now is the time of season where everybody gets kind of antsy because they're waiting to tap trees and boil down and give her, In the forest, we see the animals. A long time ago, the Creator appointed this certain type of animal, the deer, to be the leader of all the animals. And so his name translates into like breaking the trail. So you look at deers when they go through, how are they able to get through such thick brush so quick? It's amazing. So the deer is the leader animal. The water, water is life. Water is everything. We are made with water, from water, by water. We use water every day, and so it's continuously going around the earth. We are constantly in motion with it. The birds, what I mentioned was that the bird, the eagle, this certain one, the eagle, he soars high above all of us, above the trees, because his responsibility is to forewarn us of any trouble to come. So if anybody's ever seen some the Oneida Nation symbols, or you'll see the eagle is soaring high above. Also, you see within traditional gatherings, everybody has eagle feathers on. In our way, we have gastois, and it's translated as feathered hat, but we use eagle feathers. And I always ask that, why the eagle feather? And he said, well, he's the one that's soaring closest to the sky world. So he brings all that message, that energy, that pureness of the heavens and the sky world. And then we use that, and it's closest to our minds. So that's how we should be, conducting ourselves or holding ourselves. So that certain type of medicine that the eagle feathers have. The winds, north, south, east, west. In the north brings the cold. It's time to sleep. The west winds bring the warmth. The sun falls in with helping them winds too. So we know when growing season is, we know when resting season is. Thunders, they're continuously going above us, going around in a circle above us, or rotating above us, and their job is to protect us from any harm doing. So in the creation story, it talks about one day our grandfather, the thunder, they're striking down with their lightning bolts, or their tools, and that's driving the evilness back into the ground, into the underworld, or back to the darkness where they should be, where they should stay. The moon, our grandmother, the moon. What I always say is that the moon and the great waters, they work together. Also, our grandmother moon controls the woman's cycle, so she's continuously, in motion. Also, everybody knows that the moon and the water work together. And so we give thanks, great thanks to that she still carries on her responsibilities. Our eldest brother, the sun, he gives us warmth. He gives us, the medicine known as vitamin D from the sun rays. So, Junhekwa, he gives us life sustenance. The stars are our ancestors that are looking down upon us. What we refer to the Milky Way is that it's our footsteps of our ancestors to the Creator's land, also known as the heavens. So we look up and all them cluster of stars together, that's where all of our ancestors have walked. And one day we will all walk. However, we still got responsibilities here to do on earth. The four messengers, we refer to them as they dwell in the sky. So if there's trouble that is upon us or anything like that, they are there to help, protect, and to guide. They're kind of like the Creator's team. You pick them four messengers, the four directions, the four seasons, the four ceremonies. So all that falls into the four messengers. In Oneida, it's Ladilu Yaket Lolu, so they dwell in the sky. Now, as far as the Christian translation, or the European translation, in relation is also angels. So there's a lot of similarities in this. And then the last is the Creator, or God, Allah, Buddha, the Great Spirit. So the very last thing we give thanks to is Him, because He made us, He created us, and He gave us instructions on how to walk in life, how to treat one another, how to be gentle when we're out in nature, our ceremonies, our language, and everything that His instructions entail. So we always say we give thanks to Him for giving us all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. As you can tell, he's a teacher. He's more versed in this than I am. He's a natural. So we'll continue on. This is our beautiful family. We wanted to give you some insight to who we are, what we do, just so you have a better idea of where we come from and what kind of lives we live as Oneidas of Wisconsin. This is our oldest, Margie. Her Oneida name is Diundawalye. It means she travels. And ever since she was a baby, she was with me traveling. I finished 2 years of college basketball with her, and so she was on the road a lot. I did conferences and things like that, so she has definitely lived up to that name. Marcaine is our next oldest down here. Sungwadlatswiyost. He brings us all good luck, and I wish we could have brought all of them. They have such personalities, and he is definitely brings you luck and joy and happiness just in his being and his personality and his overall enjoyment of life. Mason de Haluhiolas, he splits the skies. So when he was born, the sky was split in two colors, just right down the middle. So that's how he got his name. And sometimes his personality, he'll just split to very angry, and he's completely shut off at that point. So, and then this one, as you can see the picture, this one runs the show. This is Maria. This is Riri. Waye Jokwaye lead. It means she makes the group right. So she is our final child. We're absolutely done. And she made sure that we were done. Yep. So she runs the show. Very cute. And so those are babies. 16, 11, 9, and 2. Yeah. Let's see. We just wanted to show them off a little more. Our baby, as you can see on the bottom, she's definitely a ham. They all are. And then this one on the bottom right, that's my daughter and my nephew, Ernest. And his mom is Irish. So he's got the blue eyes and the light hair and stuff, long braid. But this is after they had finished their fast. So one of the things that I'm a part of is facilitating a rites of passage youth group. And so it's helping young men and women as they're coming of age learn about themselves, their bodies, healthy relationships, the general sex ed, all that stuff, and then also relating that to their culture. So teaching them the Haudenosaunee and all these different things. And so when they're done, after a year of their lessons, they go out into a lodge that they have made with their uncles and aunties, and they fast in the lodge for the first year is 1 day and night, their second year is 2, and then 3 and 4. So after they've done their 4th year, then they have considered to be through their rites of passage and into adulthood. So this is after that. And I really love this picture because my daughter on the right is very stoic, strong, bold. And in this picture, she's just looking very gentle. And it's a very different look for her. She's very much that, let's see, the other picture, very confident, stoic-looking young lady. So that's our family. And a little bit about ourselves and what we do. So as you can see, Mirac's the cool teacher. That's graduation, and he's in the middle, and he's got all the students there. I can't tell if you see it, it looks a little pixelated from my end. He teaches at the Oneida Nation High School for about 5 years now. And he was in a alternative high school teaching for a few years. And before that, he was building the road to Door County. He is operating engineer for Northeast Asphalt for 12 years. So tough job when you have a family and when you have a responsibility as a faith keeper. So he's transitioned to a good spot now. But we're thankful because everywhere I go, though, I got to hear, I built that road. I built that road. But it's kind of cool, he gets to say he built the road up to Door County. Helped. That's not what he says when he talks to me. He says, I built the road. And then he's also a faith keeper, so he does speaking engagements. Sometimes he's asked to do that. And I'll talk a little bit about faith keeper responsibilities later in the presentation, but he's responsible for holding our ceremonies. So that means whether it's speaking or sometimes it's not glamorous work and it's sweeping up the Longhouse after ceremony when everybody just leaves. So it can be glamorous sometimes, and sometimes it's very humbling work. And then together, my husband and I have a clothing business. So on the top, you'll see some of our kids and nieces and nephews. They're modeling some of our clothes. And actually right now we're in a transition from that to switching to a more sustainable fashion clothing for young kids and toddlers. On the bottom right, you'll see I'm with one of my co-owner of a company I own, Kenko Tribal Marketing Initiatives. So we provide products to casinos nationwide. At least that's our goal. It's in the formative years right now. I'm also a business consultant for Oneida Nation. I have a contract as an Oneida language translator. I have a contract with National Indian Gaming Association as a bookkeeper and internal auditor. So we're very diverse in what we do. And I mentioned before that I facilitate the Rites of Youth Passage group in Oneida. This in the middle is some of the nieces and nephews and their uncles and aunties. They were planting seeds in a garden before their fast. So let me see if I missed anything. Oops. Okay, I'm not gonna mess with that. Okay, so that was a little bit about us. So anytime we begin what I've been taught, and again, my husband is much more versed and practiced in all this stuff. In the introduction, you've seen I had a lot of education professionally, and I love school and education that way, but he's got more of the traditional practice and knowledge. So we make a good team. We start with the creation story, and we always begin with our origin stories. They are foundational to Indigenous people and practices and their ways. They're directly related to the space and place of our people. They guide our behaviors, responsibilities, customs, and relationship to the natural world. So in the picture on the right, you'll see sky world up top, and then down below is earth, where it was once all water. And if you've heard other Indigenous origin stories, or even in science or history, some of these things are really similar. So there was a time in the sky world where we were all there, when we're sky people, and we had certain abilities, and there was no pain or hunger and things like that. And there was a woman that was pregnant in the sky world, and so she had craved the roots from a celestial tree, and she had asked her husband to uproot this tree because she wanted the roots for a tea or something. And there's different variations of this as well. And so, being the good husband that he was, he did that. And she was looking through this big hole and seeing darkness underneath, and she could see water below. And so she was looking closer and closer to try to get a better look, and she fell through. And as she was falling, she started grabbing plants and different things to try to catch herself, but she fell through. And so while this was happening down below, there's water creatures, and some of them are birds, and they see her and they say, we'll go up and catch her. And so that's what they did. And then Turtle said he will surface so that she can land on her back. So this is what happened. She landed on Turtle's back, and they're together and figuring out, what she is, who she is, and what they can do for her. She, says, I'm with child, and I need food, I need sustenance, I need soil to survive. And so the water creatures know that there is soil beneath the ocean. And so they, one by one, start diving down to the bottom of the ocean. And so the otter says, I'm the strongest swimmer. I'll dive down and I'll get the soil for you. He dives down and he floats up, and he has died without getting the soil. The otter says, I'm the fastest swimmer. I'll dive down and get the soil for you. He dives down and he floats up and has died and also didn't get soil. So the muskrat says, well, I'm not the fastest or the strongest swimmer, but I'll do my best. And as you can imagine, he dives down and he gets the soil, but he floats up and he has died, but he has the soil in his hand. And so they're able to take that soil and put it on Turtle's back. And so in our creation story, you have all these different stories and things that teach us about life, and that there's sacrifice, there's humility, and there's sacredness of our women and children as well, that they have sacrificed their lives for her and her child. And then it also relates to modern things as well. Our capabilities exceed our strengths sometimes. So those are the different life lessons we have in our creation story. So they have the soil, they're on Turtle's back, and she lays it down and she begins to do the woman's dance to spread the soil along the turtle's back. And so at this point, we'll demonstrate that a little bit for you. And Mirac will sing the woman's dance song and give a brief explanation of what that means, what that entails, and then do a little language introduction that is customary before songs.
Yeah.
As you can see, this is our first time presenting together. So it's fun.
So these songs, they're referred to as the woman's dance. We have ceremonial songs that honor, which is known as the old woman's dance, but that one goes back to the corn beans and the squash, and it also entails, through Sky Woman of how long she's been here. And now, as time changes and things grow, we grow as a people, and our culture becomes more and more. We have the New Woman Shuffle, and these are the songs that are, used for such as right now, exhibition. Also, these are the same songs that I help the students in our high school in Oneida learn every day. So, it's 30 years ago, 40 years ago, somebody had a vision, and today it's going strong. I'll introduce the song in Oneida language, and then we'll get to rocking.
It's not that glamorous. It's very.
So
I'm not that cool.
You'll notice when she's dancing that her feet never leave the stage, but what we're doing is representing the Sky Woman in her dance, and her feet are always connected. So we always say that the woman's feet should never leave the earth because of the connection that the women have and our Mother the Earth has together every day and every night. So, Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte swadahonsiose, Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte ega gunungwe ne, Nawadu ise, Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte, Deswanonyak, Nawakwadazui ganto, Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte stakwa, Daneto Nuduhak Nayungwatnugo, Daneto.
Kind of sticky. That's good.
Good?
Another one? Okay.
So I guess it's up to the crowd if you want to see one more. See here or here one more. There. So as Margaret catches her breath and drink some water, what I'm using is the water drum. And when you take it all apart, you know, there's the stick, there's the leather used from the deer hide, because nothing has a tune like a deer hide. Well, we just haven't found the other one yet. And then it's hollowed out wood. It's just a small piece of wood that's hollowed out. And then there's a plug. That's where you insert the fluid or water. Now, it said it's like, it represents a being. So the body is the wood, and it's hollowed out. Inside is the water, represents blood. The hide is the skin that covers it. And when you hit it, it gives us life. And that's what we use. Maybe most of you seen where the big drum comes in, where the singers sit around, like powwows. That's actually, it's ceremonial, but it actually comes from the plains, Lakota, Dakota. So that's where a lot of that is practice. Us being the woodland style, this is what we use. This, and then now we use cow horn rattles. So it's just like the horns of the rattle. Well, I have some, but I left them back there. About that big, they're wood, and then inside is like BBs, seeds, pellets, anything, and it makes a nice sound. So imagine, we call them benches, fit about 10 people on each one, and then you got dancers and, a lead singer, and it's just, that's our class. Every day we do that. And you see the change just from a little old singing, in the morning time. You see the kids come in, as you all know, teenagers love morning times, right? And after they get done, their head is held high. So that's like, I'm running, first job I ever had where I'm running to work on a Monday morning because, I can't wait to see these kids and change them guys, help change their outlook on everything, and also expose them like what they're really a part of, because we do have some identity loss. And I asked one of the questions, what does it mean to be Indigenous? What does it mean to be a part of all this? And a lot of them don't know. So, I'll make sure that they know it's okay that they don't know, and it's okay to make mistakes, but not the same ones over, because we're at a school and this is where we learn. So those are just some of my drives. Oh, you got a rattle. So here's a rattle. Very basic, just made out of wood. It's cow horns inside, shaking up the seeds. So these are the instruments we use for social dance. Also, we use for medicine societies and ceremonies. So it's real nice once you get everybody going. Yeah.
Right. So if I can check with the organizers, it's about 8 minutes till intermission? Okay. So we'll go ahead with the creation story. And I just caught my breath and I ran back to get the rattles and lost it again. So Sky Woman was on Earth for some time on Turtle Island for some time, and she finally had her daughter. She was pregnant as she came down, remember? So she gave birth to a baby girl, and they were on the Earth together for some time. And as time evolved, the Sky Woman's daughter became a young woman. And in the picture here on the left, you'll see Sky Woman's daughter. So she was visited by West Wind, and he tells us better than I do. She was visited by West Wind, and when she woke up, there were 2 arrows on her stomach, one jagged and one straight. And so this, she knew, meant that she was pregnant with twins. And as you remember, they're sky people, and so they're descendants of the Sky Woman, and so they still have a certain abilities, things they can do that we can't. And so from the beginning, they were talking to each other in the womb about different things. And so when it came time for Sky Woman's daughter, Mature Flower is a name that she was given. And again, this varies between nation. The right-handed twin, as they call them, said, we'll go out the normal way that babies are born. And the left-handed twin said, no, I want to go this way. And so right-handed twin was born in the normal way, and left-handed twin came out of her side. And so she died. And I'll let Mirac take over from this part because he knows it better.
So as these two beings were, birthed, they knew that, I guess, this is the part about where we have balance in life. So becoming, with this new lively event, she fell, and now she's here, and she was visited by the west wind, and she knew that she was pregnant. So upon that, her children, or her twins were, one was of the right mind and one was not. And so upon that, her birth, and she passed away, they became, growing because of these, these abilities that from the sky world, and like the powers, I guess they would say. And as time went on, they noticed, what had been taking place. But the right-handed twin, he knew that they had to put the mother's body back into the earth. Okay. The left-handed twin, he was kind of off doing his own thing. So as you see her, laying there, what grew from her mind, her chest area, and her body, her upper body, are these things that we give thanks to in the Haudenosaunee, the corns, beans, the squash, the tobaccos, and the medicines. And those are the power, that they say that we come from. And so, as the left-handed twin, or the good-minded twin, as he was going along, he noticed that he could create things. And so he was going along, and he was making the calm streams, the crystal clear waters, the great forests, the redwood forest, the seasons, the butterflies, everything of calm. But what he started noticing as he would come back through is that things were changing. He don't remember making the rapids in the water. He don't remember making the snakes, the predators. He don't, so he was wondering, like, what is going on here? And that's when, the left-handed and the right-handed twin came, and they had not a standoff, what would you call it, a battle. And you want to go from there? Keep going. Yeah. So as you see, we got, we call it like of a bad mind. So they're fighting. They challenged each other, many games, many different, who can run the fastest. The one from this side of the earth all the way to the other side, whoever gets here first, that's who will be the ruler of this place we call our home. What they were noticing is that they would tie every single time. And so they both had equal powers. If everybody remembers the game of lacrosse, the netted stick, the ball game, that's where it comes from. That's how important that game is. It is so important that it was decided on who's going to rule the earth at all times. Again, I remember one detail. There was one goal on this side of the earth and one goal on that side, and they started in the middle. And they played and they played and they played for days, and they still could not win. So they had a fight. And in this, the good-minded twin, he won. And it was decided that he would be the ruler of the daytime. So if anybody remembers back then when they were growing up of it's dark out now, it's time to go inside. Those are some of the teachings that my grandmother and my mother always told me. Another one is don't whistle at night. all these little sayings and little things to live by. So he, the left-handed twin, he rules the nighttime, and the bad luck, the unforeseen, the unexpected deaths. That's we call him the tormentor and his helpers. And there's always the good side, the morning time, the spring, the new life. And so what it comes down to, I guess, that what will remain is balance. There'll always be some life balance, no matter what we do. I see it's very graphic, and that's a lot of that is in the culture, the graphicness of how we used to treat one another, of all the wrongdoings that have happened.
So how this relates to our everyday lives in the past and today is that there's always that balance, the good and the bad, or the negative and the positive. I always think of chemistry when you have an atom that has a negative and positive charge. There's that balance. And then so his colleague teaches in a middle school, and she has young students. So he has high schoolers, she has the little ones. So she has a jar, and so when the kids are acting up, she says, "You need to go grab that left-handed twin off your shoulder and put him in the jar." And so it's such a cute reminder, how we always use our creation in our teachings today even. And that not necessarily when you fall towards the bad side, or maybe you're acting up, that it's not necessarily a horrible thing, it's just that you got to find that balance again. So that's the teachings with the twins and in our creation story. And I think that is 1 minute over, and time for intermission. Thank you. So we'll continue on with our presentation. We'll just let people come in as if there's still some out in the lobby. So we're taking a big jump here to more modern, or more recent history. And when I say recent, I mean 500, 800 years. Some people say 1,000 years. History. So, Goha? Is that how you say it? Okay. Goha, the Great Law of Peace. So there was a time in our history prior to colonization, settler colonialism, that there was, we call a great time of turmoil. And so these nations, for us, it's in the New York State area. Our nations were fighting amongst each other. And there was horrible acts being done against each other and our communities. And so there was a peacemaker, is what we call him, that had a message. And he traveled to all these nations, one by one, to bring this message of peace. And so that meant he had to go to some of these leaders who were very dangerous, feared men. And he had to come to them with a message of peace. And so he was able to do that and to bring the nations together. So did you want to say anything else on that? It's skipping. I mean, we have to skip a lot to get through it. So that's the gist of it. And so as a result of that, they came together under the Tree of Peace. So in the picture here, this is a tree of peace, and it symbolizes the nations coming together and bearing their weapons underneath. And so there's a club underneath the tree there. And as Mirac mentioned earlier, the eagle is symbolic in our culture. And so he is on the top to always keep watch and to remind us of our roles, responsibilities, and our peace. So those nations became the 5 nations. And this is called the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. It's more commonly known as Iroquois, and I believe that's a French word. But it's Haudenosaunee, and if you're like Oneida or Mohawk, I believe it's Haudenosaunee, so our languages are similar but different. 5 nations came together, and this side Mohawk? So Mohawk,
Yeah.
I'm blanking now. So the center fire is Onondaga, this one here. Then on the outsides you have our elder brothers, and that's the Mohawk and the Seneca. And in the middle you have Cayuga and Oneida. And so we're one of these squares in the middle. And if you see on the outside right here, that represents that it's always open to others to join the Confederacy, to join in peace and governance. So that happened in the 1700s. That's post-colonialism, post-contact. The 5 nations became the 6 nations. And so this here is a wampum belt. So has anyone heard about wampum before? And has anyone heard that it's money? Yeah, so that's incorrect. So, I didn't mean to set you up there. But it's common. I mean, we're such a small percentage in the United States that it's sometimes difficult to get our correct history and knowledge out there. So it's understandable that that might be common knowledge outside. So these are the wampum shells made from the quahog, the wampum beads made from the quahog shell. And I believe that they're made where the salt water meets the fresh water, right? And so they work with the quahog shell to make beads, and they make belts. And they string them on sinew. And so these belts, so the settlers might have saw them, that we cherished them, we held them closely, and we gave them in a good way, in a sacred way. And they might have saw that as money because they cherished money so much. But it was representative of a treaty, a bond, a togetherness, a historical event that we held close to our communities and our hearts. So this is the wampum belt. And this one in particular is the 5 nations. And so the Haudenosaunee has a form of governance that was a result of that great law of peace. And this was had influenced the United States Constitution. Oh, just going back here, this is the Mohawk, the Oneida in purple. This is in the state of New York, our original homelands. Tuscarora there, Onondaga in the blue, Cayuga and Seneca at the end. So this is original territories, and it's still, this is the part where I don't know exactly, but I believe that recent time, if not now, there's an open case that the state of New York belongs to the Haudenosaunee still through illegal treaty actions. So in 1754, Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson traveled to the Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the different nations. They're visiting chiefs and talking with the leaders, and I'm assuming clan mothers as well. It doesn't say that in this, but I'm assuming clan mothers as well. So they were creating the Articles of the Confederation for the 13 colonies. And in an excerpt from Benjamin Franklin about 1784, he says, "The savages are in fact as civilized or more civilized than the whites. It is the whites who must rely on force, punishment, and prisons to enforce good behavior." And so what this meant that, and remember this is a time where just people are coming over, and they're coming over trying to get land. So there's no governance, there's no organization and relationship amongst these people coming over. They're just coming over and settling. So he had recognized that we had a mature and detailed and great form of governance. And so that's why it influenced the United States Constitution. So this is the system, the Confederacy. We have clans. This is Oneida, and each one of those nations that I listed, Mohawk, Cayuga, Seneca, they have different clans. They may be the same, similar, and more. For Oneida, it's 3 clans. And each clan has sub-clans as well. Not today, because those practices were lost along the way, but a long time ago we had sub-clans. Now we just have the 3. So Wolf Clan are the leaders. The turtles are the caretakers of the earth, and the bear are the medicine people. They have knowledge of the medicines. And so when an issue, an idea, anything that's coming about that the community has to decide on, the leader Wolf Clan will bring that to the agenda. They'll set the agenda for the meeting. And then they'll send that issue over to the Turtle Clan. And the Turtle Clan will talk amongst each other. They will research. They'll figure out what they think is the best way to address the issue. They'll send that to the Bear Clan. The Bear Clan will do the same. And then they'll come together, the turtle and the bear, and then they'll discuss it again together. And once they come to consensus, and that's a big word, a big value in Haudenosaunee Confederacy, consensus, they'll send that back to the wolf. And so if the Wolf Clan is in agreement, then the matter passes. It's good and they'll act on it. If the Wolf Clan does not agree, they send it back through the process. And so if this process goes through 3 times, and then once the 3rd time and there's no consensus, it just ends. There's a word for it, but it stops, it doesn't pass. And I'm sure, and they'll, it could be brought up another time, but at that moment, the issue will pass. It will not be, no, I'm saying that wrong. It will be dropped, that's what it is, because there's no consensus. And so with that clan system, in each clan, they have chiefs and clan mothers, faith keepers, and runners. So the chiefs are responsible for making the right decision in the community. Look at my notes here. They listen to what the clan mothers say, and they become the voice of the people. And the clan mothers are responsible for appointing those chiefs on the people's behalf. So they're responsible for listening to the people and voicing the opinions of the people. The clan mothers also can take the chiefs out of their position if they're not doing what their duties tell them to. Do you want to talk on the faith keeper's responsibility?
So, there's many explanations on what a faith keeper is. Some say that in the English word that word faith keeper really shouldn't be used, but as time goes on, it just sort of gets stuck. Now, what I tell people is like, okay, I can't fly, I can't walk on water, I can't, so on and so on. When we hold ceremony, we have our Oneida Longhouse, and such times as the midwinter ceremonies. It's a log house, 6 windows, door on one side, door on the other, and benches. There's 2 fireplaces, and no furnace, no AC, no running water. We have a cookhouse that has that, but not our longhouse. So, faith keeper's responsibility. What it narrows down to, what I heard from one of my friends, is that spiritual custodians. If it's cold, you better make sure that longhouse is warm, okay? Because one thing that will never leave my mind is seeing that elder sitting next to in a cold longhouse, sitting next to the fire that was just getting going. So my drive is, if it's 30 below out, keep them fires going all night long. So like every 2 hours, I'd wake up, I'd go feed the fires, make sure it's warm, and then go back, get some sleep, go again. Sometimes I would ask guys to help. Some that would be on 3rd shift, hey, when you get off, could you go stoke the fires up? And everybody's really willing to help. So we got a house full of people and a house full of kids and a lot of, snacks and bathroom breaks and traffic. snow coming in, water, mud, all that. So when that's all done, we got a well-used facility, right? So it's my job to get in there with the mop and the broom and the garbage bag and get that place cleaned up. And if they need wood, I better be chopping. We need hot coals, we need all that. We need it to be ready to go for the next day, which also includes like the knowledge and the steps of each ceremony. Which songs to sing, who does what first. You know, we do have a great team that works together, and you know, they all hold title also, title holders such as faith keepers. We have one Bear Clan chief, and you know, he was born and raised in Oneida, Canada, and so this is what he was brought up into. The way it came out here is that we knew the people, like my parents' generation, they knew they needed something. They could sense it, they could feel it. They were acting on it, but they you know, it's kind of like some of this, and some of this, and some of this. And then when you know, that man came out here from the east, he kind of like, you know, broke it all down and put it into steps and stuff. So now, all said and done, which was back in the late 70s to working on it into the late 80s, we have a fully functional Longhouse in Oneida, Wisconsin, which descends from all the way from New York, but then they also moved to Oneida, Canada. And so there's 3 Oneidas, and there was some controversy in that even went to the Supreme Court. But the people out east, they cannot believe, like, we always heard about Oneida, Wisconsin, but we never been out here. And so they, you know, what they do out there is what we do here, but not that far in depth. So when it's time for them to come out, they're like, you know, looking and, you know, wondering, like, do you guys know how to do this? Yeah. And then so we perform them acts and them ceremonies, and you know, we have a great relationship, and they're real proud of us. You know, we work right hand in hand with each other. So those are, you know, that right there is enough to keep anybody out of trouble. You know what I mean? So, knowing the songs, the instruments, you know, very important. If we don't have a water drum, you'll see somebody panic real quick. So always make sure that water drum is there, or somebody has a drum bag. Somebody knows the leads to the song. Somebody has the other instruments that come along with it. All the what we call props, or, you know, itinerary. Yeah, some people they love. I can't wait for ceremonies, and it's good because you feel accomplished and you can feel that power inside of you. But once the last day is done, I hit the bed for about 2 days and I just lay there because it's an amazing, and like I said, it keeps you out of trouble.
Yes, and he's also very humble too. As when he was appointed, this is an appointed position. He did all those things without, you know, being asked, and he was learning along the way. And as it naturally happened, people saw him doing these things. They saw him learning the language. They saw him working in the Longhouse. And so now there's times when people seek his help, just to help with their mind, some of their things that are going on in their life. Just on the way here, someone had called and is wanting to become sober, and so they seek him out for these type of this type of advice. And so he is being humble. He does all that stuff, the custodian stuff, but he's also helps our community when they ask him. And in the early years, this was not the easiest on a family, because I'm like, you got kids over here, well, you got responsibilities in our house too. So we had to work through that, and now we have a pretty good balance. So as you can see, these positions, our ceremonies, our life ways, it's sometimes a struggle to balance that with a modern society. So it's just a matter of communication, working through it, and see what works for each family. So going back to the governance system, what the United States Constitution forgot in their governance system is the clan mothers. So they have the House and the Senate, they have the president and the vice chair, so they have their chiefs, they have their clans. But they forgot the important role of the female, the feminine voice in that balance. So that's one thing I always say. It's like, we influence the Constitution. It's like, well, you forgot a major part of that. And that, again, is the feminine and masculine voice in making decisions for your community. In every deliberation, we must consider the impact of our decisions on the next 7 generations. So as our communities, our leaders, our clans are discussing issues and matters, they are thinking 7 generations ahead. And I'm sure you guys have heard that before. So this means that we are not making decisions for our benefit today, for our wealth today, for our big houses or this and that. We're making decisions that impact 7 generations ahead. And, you know, my husband and I do like nice things too. So we have a nice truck and we have a modest, beautiful home. It's like 1,600 square feet, but it's got gray metal siding. So it's a smaller home for a family of 6, but it's very modern and beautiful. So we still love beautiful things, but we also make sure that our decisions impact our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Way down the road, I hope so. So some of the things that are guiding these decisions in these meetings to come to consensus is Haudenosaunee philosophy. So again, considering the future generations, consensus as one mind. You can see that process is very strenuous. They have to come together all as one. And that can be a difficult process if any of you have been in just small boards of 5 people. Respect, responsibility, reciprocity, and relationship to family, nuclear, to extended family, clan, to nation, confederacy, and creation. So the natural world as well. So I mentioned our rites of passage. So that process, we're helping these young men and women find their gifts and their talents. And that's to help them realize they are able, they're capable, they're strong, and find their confidence, but also remind them that that gift is also used for the benefit of the community and the world as well. Each member of our society has a voice, even the children, so our children are listened to as well. We even have ceremonies that were created because of a young child had spoken up about things. So part of and in harmony with the natural world. So sometimes in the past media and TV, and you see the cards that have the beautiful long-haired native and the native guy with long hair and 6-pack, you know, and all that. And they got birds around them and everything. And there are some people like that, I'm sure, but it romanticizes our culture and our people. And really what that means is that it doesn't mean we don't harm any animal, because we do hunt and all these things, and I will smack a mosquito quick. So it doesn't mean that we're sitting here peaceful with all the birds around us. It means that we understand our balance and our impact on the world, so that when we take things, we understand we don't take too much, or we don't take all of it. And then, so that's kind of like that harmony, it means that balance, that come back to the center, the negative and the positive. And so each one of us has, including the animals, plants, and insects, they have their original instructions on how to live on the land. And so that helps us guide us on how we stay in harmony with our world. And we are reminded of these responsibilities through our ceremonies. So that's the importance of these ceremonies that we have, maple, strawberry, midwinter. It reminds us that we rely on these things in the natural world to live, and that we extend our thankfulness and gratitude towards them. We also have Gully Wheel, Good Message, and this one came about post-colonization, because when the colonists came over, they brought disease, alcohol, and things like that. And so in our communities, we started seeing some of our men would go out on hunting trips, and they wouldn't hunt, they wouldn't bring back the food, they would be drunk, they would go drink. And women too, I'm sure, were doing things, and it was just that imbalance in our communities. And so the Gully Wheel came about from a man who was an alcoholic and sobered up and had these dreams and this message that came to him. And he went to the communities to bring that back, that peace back to our communities. And this is when alcohol and drugs were mind changers, is what they called them, were forbidden from our communities. And as faith keepers and people in the Longhouse are not supposed to use mind changers in a way that will impact their decisions in their mind. You want to say anything on that?
Oh,
Good?
yeah.
I did a good job. So colonization. So this is going to be 20 minutes about I got left. We're just going to breeze through this. There is so much to this. I have to take a deep breath. So 1492 is, of course, the date we have for when the colonists came over. I'll just go through this. During this time, the colonists, settlers still saw tribal nations, indigenous peoples as sovereign nations. They had agreements with them, they worked with them, they had somewhat of an economy. Indigenous people already had their economy and their trade routes and everything between each other, but settlers kind of came into that, and they recognized them as nations, as peoples. Fur trading with the French, we have disease that some almost wiped out entire peoples from smallpox. Wars, American Revolution, and during these times, and I'm jumping way ahead here, there was a split in the Confederacy. So the Oneidas sided with the colonist, with America, and the other nations sided with the British, and they fought. And as we all know, the colonists won, and the Oneidas were very impactful in that war, as George Washington, I don't know the details. His grandma's a tribal historian, and I'm not living up to her expectations here. But I know that George Washington, there was a time where his army was starving. They were not going to make it, and it was the Oneida women that came together and had their white corn, and they were able to feed the army so that they would continue on with the war. So the Oneidas are very impactful in that war in winning America. It's so weird to say that sometimes. And so during that time, there was, again, going back to this turmoil between nations. And so what had happened is they came together and they said, we need to reach out to other nations, and we need to come together as indigenous peoples, original inhabitants of this land. So we started doing social dance songs, or is it round dance in particular? And so at this time, Mirac will demonstrate one of those songs that was a result of the nations coming together and trying to bring more peace and togetherness between each other.
So as the time went on and the invasions of things and how things been stripped and lost, what it was is that the older ones, such as the title holders, they sent them runners out, and because a lot of the speakers, a lot of the singers, just the communities were devastated of all the tragedy that was going on. So they needed to still carry on their ways. And what the runners did is they went to, the four directions, north, south, east, and west. And what their instructions were is to bring back types of songs, or types of dances. And some of these songs that they brought back were ceremonial songs within these tribes from, each part of the land that we reside on, Turtle Island, United States. For example, we have an alligator dance, right? There's no alligators in Duck Creek, as far as I know. So what it came from the Seminole Indians. So we have a long-term relationship. The Oneidas have a long-term relationship with the Seminole Indians down in Florida, and they have a festival down there, a yearly festival. It's kind of like an exhibition. Tourists, you go right into their village, and you see them right there. So one of our guys went down there, and he explained, we have an alligator dance, and this is the way that I've been shown. He said, but I really don't know where it came from or how long we've had it, but we sing it and, we honor it. So he performed it, and when he was done, this little boy came up to him and said, my grandpa wants to talk to you. And if everybody knows that, it's like, uh-oh, what did I do? So he told him to come in and sit down, and they welcomed him in their, it was a little hut, one of them Seminole huts. He said, sit down, I want to talk to you. And then, he was ready to get an earful for it. But he said, what you said is right. He said, and we have our alligator dance, but we use that to when we go out hunting. And it's a form of protection. So, in the Everglades, everybody knows that that's pretty nerve-wracking out there. But them guys were out there hunting, and they were bringing them whatever all that game back. So they would perform the song before they went out, and it was very similar to how it's done here, but it was a little bit different. And he's like, don't worry, you guys, we traded. It's your guys's, it's ours too. But what we don't do is that ceremonial song for our social dances, but it's okay. So another one comes from, I think it's up in Delaware. It's called the Delaware Skin Dance. They have two sticks, two singers, and then they'll drum or they'll beat on that leather, and that's what it is. But that's also ceremonial, but it's okay. So along the way, as long as you held these social dances and these kinds of ways with a good mind, everything's okay. Another one went out west by the Plains Indians, and they have what they call round dance. And so, whatever was exchanged back then, we came back, and then we made it to our fitting. So this round dance, it's in Oneida, it's called It Goes Around, and that's all we're doing. So the first song will start out, and it's the beat, or it's the togetherness of everybody. Everybody holds hands, and as the leader is singing the first lead, and going like that. And then once that beat changes, then everybody, the first round will go counterclockwise. Why we go counterclockwise is because that's the way the earth rotates. Another reason is that's the way that when Sky Woman was shuffling, that's the direction she was going. And so that represents everything here on the living side. It represents the new life. It represents the babies being born, so on and so on. When the beat changes, everybody stops, right? But they're still swinging. When the beat starts up again, then they go the opposite way. And so now they're dancing clockwise. And in that represents the negativity, the death, the nighttime, the wrongdoing. But there's always balance, see? The day, the night, the up, the down, left, the right. And so we honor that. That goes all the way back to the creation story. And I think we're going to demonstrate that.
Okay.
Here she is dancing again. She loves dancing.
Usually you have a big circle of people, so it's a little bit different to do it by yourself.
Again, this is a social dance song, and growing up, we only did this at our meeting place, the Longhouse. But now, like when I was a little boy, that's all I remember is how big these social dances were, and how like the good conversations and the laughter that was going on, and then some of the hardest laughs. And you know, you would see people who didn't get along with each other, you would actually see them, you know, hugging, having a good time. So this is called the round dance, and I'll introduce in Oneida language. We'll see how long we can hang. Dona ganjokwa, ne swada hunsi yose got nearly wis, nen ohandu jitnate galiwadekwa, nen yoktwaza de, nen ise yagungwe, Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte, ni yogossanoda, nen aswakwadaze, nen ganto jitno yungwa yataili stakwa, Dani Tonya duhak ne yugot nego. Dani. Ya hey, hawi yo ya hey, hawi ya hey, we ya hey, hawi ya hey, ya we ya hey, yo ya hey, hawi yo ya hey, hawi ya hey, we ya hey, hawi ya hey, ya we ya hey, hawi ya hey. Yo ya hey, hawi yo ya hey, hawi ya hey, we ya hey, hawi ya hey, ya we ya hey, hawi ya hey, we ya hey, ya we ya hey. Yo ya hey, yo ya hey, hawi yo ya hey, hawi ya hey, we ya hey, hawi ya hey, ya we ya hey, hawi ya hey, we ya hey, ya we ya hey. Yo ya hey, hawi yo ya hey, hawi ya hey, we ya hey, hawi ya hey, ya we ya hey, hawi ya hey, we ya hey, ya we ya hey, ya.
Danced right out of my moccasin.
Do one more? You want to see one more? One more song? You know?
Maybe a volunteer or two? It's just awkward. My hands are supposed to be with people.
If anybody's willing to come up, it's okay. If not, it's okay. Yeah, come on down. Price is right.
I can wear my mask if we need to. My hands are sweaty, so lock arms are just. Thank you.
Welcome. So first direction we'll go is counterclockwise,
Come up a little bit, yeah.
and then don't get too close to the stage.
I'm trying to stay in the light and not fall off.
And what we do is like we throw that first foot out, and it's the dancers that keep the beat of the drum. Okay, so I don't want to be going really fast and you guys be going, because you will burn some calories. That's what this stuff will do.
Yep, we'll start right foot.
Yo goya ya goya ya yoe yoane hane ya yawane hane ya he ya yoane hane ya oya ya goya ya yoe ya yawane ya yawane hane ya he ya yoane hane ya goya ya yoe yoane hane ya
Yay, thank you. Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
That's much better. My arms just felt like they're swinging by themselves, all weird, when I was by myself. So thank you. So that is the round dance. And it's a little bit easier than a shuffle because you're stepping your feet. With a shuffle, you got to use your calf muscles and everything. So this part is a time when the indigenous peoples again were hitting hard times. And so as Mirac mentioned, we traveled and we're connecting with other communities to bring some songs back. So 1787 to 1828. So again, during this era, the colonists and British, they still saw the indigenous nations as nations, as sovereign peoples. But also during this time, again, as I mentioned before, there was alcohol that was brought over, that our communities not being familiar with that and its effects in overconsumption, and that our communities were falling into that. And so Handsome Lake had come to the nations with the message, the good message, and this was again to bring back those ways and come back to a balance. And also during this time, the Christian mission schools were starting to be built in these communities, and that influence was there in our people and our children. There's various treaties between all the different nations and the British and everything, broken treaties and treaties that still hold, and so many. Again, encroachment on our land, so they keep coming and they keep coming and they want more land. They want a lot of it, and they want to be wealthy, and they want to have all these things, so that is impacting our communities. And as I mentioned before, the illegal acquisition of the New York State happened during this time. So this is Wisconsin, and you guys might have saw this with other presentations. This is the original, original lands of the Menominee, Ojibwe, and Ho-Chunk. And I believe, this is not my area of expertise, but I believe the Potawatomi came up from the south east. And the Dakotas may have traveled this way a little bit too. Again, not my area of expertise, but I know that Menominee, Ojibwe, Ho-Chunk were here, their original lands, and that a Christian influenced party in New York was the ones that traveled to Wisconsin. So they had originally purchased 9 million acres from the Menominee. Some things said 8 million, but in that area. And again, as we're there, there's numerous treaties and agreements and letters and all these things going on for this purchase. There's again land encroachment. People keep wanting money, and it keeps dwindling, land, and it keeps dwindling. So land is reduced to 500,000 acres. between 3 tribes. And then in the Treaty of 1838, it's reduced to 65,000 acres of land for the Oneida. And that's that little bitty whitish square in the middle. So these are the 3 nations, Oneida nations. So this is where we originate from. And when that Christian party came over in the 1820s, some of them stopped here. And then the rest of us came over here. And so we have 3 separate sovereign nations, one in the state of New York, one in Canada, and one here in Wisconsin, each with their own government and an enrollment process and all those things. But where we come together is with our traditional ceremonies. So we'll travel to different communities for ceremonies. So this is just another picture of the original lands, and then the reduced lands, and then once again reduced lands. And then within this pink square, this is like a checkerboard. So could be land here, could be non-native land here, and it's just checkerboard. And so we have Hobart Village, which was established after we purchased land there in Oneida, which is in this area. And so they fight us constantly about who is original owners and inhabitants of the land. And it's in documents, it's in treaties and all this stuff, and they still fight against us, and for some reason sometimes they still have leverage. But Oneida has been successful in maintaining their right over and jurisdiction over their lands. So 1887, 1934, allotment and assimilation. So the boarding school era is a tough one to talk about, especially in recent findings. We'll step back. The Dawes Allotment Act further diminished our lands, and that's when it went checkerboard. So we are communal people, so our lands were our community's lands, and we worked together to care for that. And so what the Dawes Allotment Act did was take each head of household, mostly men, but some women who weren't married would get, I believe it was 160 acres or something per head household, might have been 90. And that was their land. So it's instilling this idea of property on a people that are communal with their land. And so with that, there were some people who couldn't be successful on the land. They had to pay taxes, these new things, and they weren't able to upkeep their land and their families, and they had to sell. So they lost a lot of land that way. There's actually stories too, we call WPA stories, of a person telling about a man who went out to town, to Green Bay, and then when he came back, they went out to drink with his friend, and they came back, and then the next day when he woke up, the guy said and gave him a paper and said, "Your land is mine now." And so there are these type of things that came about as a result of that, because again, we're still learning about the concept of land ownership and what that means. So then boarding schools, this is in Oneida, Wisconsin now. This is actually where he teaches. It does not look like that anymore. Is this the right one? Yeah, that's Norbert Hill though, right? Yeah. So it doesn't look like this now. There's a big building here connected. But this is the original boarding school. But now what's happening a lot is Native nations are buying the old boarding schools that used to take their children from them. So it's kind of, it's a reverse. And it's a good thing, because that's where he teaches the high school students the songs and the culture. So I'm not sure if anyone is aware. What's the time? Am I past time? Good? Okay. That in the past 2 years, they're finding mass burial sites of children at these boarding schools.
So, everybody knows the part about how the Christianity influenced the Native American, the indigenous, and everything that went along with that. Again, very graphic, but you know, some rebelled, some didn't follow, some, you know, so on and so on and so on. These boarding schools were built. We have a seminary right in Oneida, Wisconsin, which now is named after Norbert Hill. We refer to it as the Norbert Hill Center. It was purchased from, you know, I forget his name. It was purchased from that organization. And in that contract that was in there, it said, we'll give it to you for this price, which was real low, but it has to remain a learning center. And so actually, this is the other bizarre thing about when I go to work. It's where I went to elementary school. So my current room now, well actually my very first room is where I went to Head Start back in '83. It was just, I was like, are you kidding me? You know, every day it was just something. But everybody knows about Norbert Hill and how spooky it can get, you know. You say, keep it up and I'm gonna send you up to 3rd floor because nobody goes on the 3rd floor. Yeah. So that's kind of a way to get kids' attention. Disease, you know, beatings, all that stuff, you know, it happened there. Okay, so it happened there. What are we going to do today about moving forward? We do have, you know, everybody knows about the supernatural and, you know, things dropping, people getting crabby and all that. So, you know, I participate quite a bit within that, with the traditional medicine societies, and a lot of it has to do with the dead, lost souls. So what we did, we performed an act, and what was brought forth was that you can take care of the indigenous side. That's what needs to be taken care of. But it's the Christianities, you know, the settler side, they don't understand what we're doing. And so they still remain there. And so we had to bring in I guess, priest, and he knew how to go about it. And he told us what needed to be done. And I said, see you later. I ain't gonna be there. In all seriousness, because, you know, and, you know, it's there, but we take care of it, okay? We respect it, and, you know, we still seek help for them to come in, because it was a seminary, it's, you know, where they learn to become priests. I go outside as much as I can with my class. Earlier this fall, it was a beautiful fall day, and there's a pond in the back. And as kids, we used to go swimming there all the time. That was the spot. So I'd bring my kids back there and, you know, talk about like, hey, you guys, you know, this used to be our mall, right? You guys go to the mall, we used to go to the pond. Everybody knows that. And all of a sudden, this man come walking down the hill, and, you know, it's like, hey, he doesn't look familiar. So he took note, and I just raised my hand. Hello. And he's like, hi, I don't mean to, you know, intrude or bug anybody. So he's like, I just had to come here. And I was like, well, are you lost? Or, you know, start questioning. And he's like, I used to come to this school back in the 60s. And I was just wondering if, you know, maybe I can go inside and look around. And I said, well, the whole thing about background checks and, you know, school, you're in a school property, we don't know who you are. He's like, well, I'm a lawyer. I was like, oh, geez, here we go. But, you know, I was like, I can't right now. I got class, I got kids. And, but here he ended up, I think one of the maintenance guys, he was outside smoking a cigarette or whatever, you know, and, you know, hey, you know. So he got cleared to come in, and he was just walking around, and he was just having these flashbacks and these happy times, and I think he was like mid-60s, well in shape, well healthy and everything, but towards all that, end of the day, the buses come and gone, and one of my students seen that guy at our Oneida One Stop, and he was kind of like hunched over on the steering wheel. He thought, hey, that guy, he ain't doing too good right there. And he was crying. And, that really meant something, because back then, a place like that, that's where he went to go learn and feel good and be with his buddies and so on and so on. But now, that's where I grew up. That's where I've made friends. That's where a lot of first times happen there. Now it's a teaching facility, and there I am. Like, my current room now is where I went to 3rd grade, and the same thing. I could just replay the memories like it's nothing. So, moving forward in that with the boarding schools and everything, I'm sure we're not the only one that's doing it in the world, but moving forward, that's what we do. Is just together we will move forward. No hard feelings, no nothing. We need to figure out what's going to happen for what we said in the beginning, the next 7 generations. So we're thinking of that.
Thank you. So in the picture in the bottom there's boarding schools throughout the United States, of course, and there was this research done to find some of the kids that went to these boarding schools and had passed away. And so this was one, I can't see the name. It just says Father John Matoxin, Jemima Matoxin, was a 16-year-old who had died in Carlisle Indian School. And so they found this out, and they were able to bring the remains back to Oneida to be buried by their family. And this was just in the last 2-3 years, I think. So there's ways to make amends, make it right and things like that. How much time do I got? Good? Okay. Okay. So there was a lot more recent history since the 1930s. They gave us the right to govern ourselves, but that we already had that right. So it was just, the federal government's way of saying they recognize our sovereignty and to have a say in that always. So, and then tribes went back and forth. They terminated some of our tribes, took our lands from us, and then gave it back. And it was kind of this pendulum swing of the government supporting us, then not supporting us over the years. And so these are pictures of the first tribal chairman of our nation as the government saw how we should govern ourselves, the federal government. Our bingo, which is now a successful casino and funds my education at KU and UWGB. This is our first tribal office building. So just some of those pictures, and I wanted to end on a good positive note. And this is a turtle school where I went to school. It was built when I was in 5th grade, and so that's where I started. Some of the kids in their community garden for the school. We have an apple orchard, Apple Fest in September. That's really fun if you wanted to come out for that. We have the powwow in July, usually 4th of July time, which is another fun big event to come to. I'm not sure if they'll have it this year yet, but we'll see. There's a casino, we have conservation department, we have a museum, we have a health center, we have our own license plates. They think it's so cool. I get pulled over sometimes because they don't recognize them. In Chicago, I got pulled over. And you always get I didn't even know there were Indians in Wisconsin. It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So we had the LPGA a few years back at our golf course that we purchased purchased in Hobart. Again, Hobart fights us with that. We still have ceremonies. This is a replica longhouse, but we do have a longhouse, as he mentioned, where we uphold our ceremonies. We have a police force. We have buffalo, and you can purchase buffalo at our farm. And there's many other things that we have, and this is just a cute picture of us, so I put it up there. Doing other performances, and we don't do a lot of these because, again, you see in our big family. So it's very nice to get out here and to see everybody, and it really uplifts our spirits knowing that people are out there getting educated, because what that means for our kids is that they'll have a safer, more inclusive space when they're older for them to thrive and be, together with everyone in a good way. So social media, if you want to find me on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, mostly show pictures of my kids and stuff. And then you'll see my husband on there, so you can find him on there too. Yes, so any questions, please don't hesitate. Don't worry about being offensive. We're very open and we just want to educate.
Thank you so much, Margaret and Mirac. We're so pleased that you were with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you to all of you for coming. We do have time for questions. We have microphones on either side here. If you're able to come down, please do so. We have volunteers that will clean the surfaces of the microphones in between. And a few of us are watching our Zoom feed to see if there's any questions from our online audience as well. So periodically you may see us. And if you do need to leave, feel free to do so. And also those of you who are on the loge, or if you're just not able to make your way down here, just hold your hand up and one of us will bring you a microphone. Anyone want to start us off?
I think I can speak loud enough.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about what you're wearing and what
Okay.
significance that might be.
Yeah, I'll start. So what I have is more a modern skirt. So our skirts were usually made of like wool or calico. And this, over the years, indigenous people have found ways to represent themselves today. And so their modern, or their traditional clothing has started to evolve to some more modern things. So this is a modern skirt with all the ribbons, and it's made of satin and stuff like that. This is a tobacco pouch, and it's, again, a more modern one. So, but I do carry like either a stone or tobacco in it. And I believe I won this during a ceremony, what we call peach stone. Yeah.
So same thing, you know, it's traditional regalia, kind of, right now. Like she said, you know, I always tell people I'm Oneida, Menominee, and Mayflower ship. So as you see, I like my treasures, you know, I love them. This is just, they're props, you know, but they're a form of identity. So on this, just a medallion with it looks to be a well-fed turtle on there. He's hibernating, or ready for hibernation. And then the 4 colors of man, the yellow, black, red, and the white. You know, so that you know, it's just a part of being all in the circle. The ribbon shirt. So I'll wear this one during ceremonies, and that one too. And now you see we got the gustois on also. And then the women, they always have skirts, fully dressed. So what we do, we have a peach stone game, and these are items for bet. You know, anything traditional, traditional acrostics, turtle rattles, anything, you know, within that. And they say you don't lose them here. If you lose the game, you'll see it again in the sky world or heavens. So, yep.
The items of Wisconsin relate to Hiawatha, the poem,
Hiawatha, the poem.
The poem?
We should repeat the questions, because even though we are hearing it in the hall, our viewers online may not hear it. So if you're able to repeat.
Did you catch it?
How are the Oneidas related to Hiawatha in the poem?
how do Wisconsin Oneidas relate to that particular poem? Because
Okay, I'm not familiar with the.
what you talked about today is in the poem.
Okay.
So the you know, Hiawatha, you know, here's the one that the 5 nations built with the fire and the squares. So yes, we are all original from New York, but when we branched off, like when we all came over here, so let's see, prior to that, you know, we were born, raised traditional, and we were a part of these, you know, traditional ceremonies, our language. So we were still that, even though we migrated this way. And so all of that came along with it, such as the ceremonies and the medicine societies, and with that unity belt, the Hiawatha belt, all that came out, all that, yeah. So this one all came along with us. Even though we were Christianized, all that still was within our bloodline, because that's forever. So a lot of stuff got handed down generations. And it's like the, what do you call it? The divine part of things.
Peacemaker, right?
Yeah.
Hiawatha? Yeah, that's what we mentioned here is the peacemaker that went to the nations and brought that message, and the result was the 5 nations. I'm not familiar with the poem, sorry.
Yeah. Yes?
In your song, when you were dancing and singing, what could you translate some of the words that you were saying?
Yeah. So he asked if there's a translation to some of the songs that we sung today. The first one was Gunungwe Ne, the New Woman Shuffle. And in that particular one, it says, Ungwe huwe ne oneote'a. So ungwe huwe, you're saying like the real, the indigenous, the native, right? Ungwe huwe. Can you hear me loud enough, sir? Okay. So I'm a soft speaker. I mean,
Both are.
Everybody says, yeah, like, quit yelling, you know. I was like, well, I can't hear you either. Right? So in there, you know, ungwe huwe ne oneote'a. So the real indigenous Oneida, people of the standing stone. That's what that first one was in there for the woman's dance. The second one, they're just, what do you call them, syllables, A's, ha's, ho's, and we's, you know, the fillers in there. But that particular dance, you know, the representation of it is the meaning within there. So in them ones, there's not too much. One of them talks about a good road. You know, everybody loves to drive down a good road, right? Not a kidney rattler. That's what so
It means like a good path, a good journey.
yeah, good path, good journey. Those are some of the ones in there. Yeah, that was just that one. There are other ones. Usually talks about nature, life, good-minded, mindfulness, love, children, you know, all of them written ones. Yep.
So on that topic, how many children now within the Oneida community are learning the language, and are they fluent speakers? Or do you hope they will be fluent speakers?
Fingers are crossed. Well, we have 160, 50 in our high school and 300 within our turtle school, our elementary, or actually, which is now, good point, we have a language nest. So it took years and years and years for this to happen. And second year they're on. As soon as the children walk in, they're greeted in Oneida language, and they have 5 teachers who also went to the turtle school, but who also took language classes, and all day is Oneida language, all day long. So it's called the Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte. Her name is Rosa Francor, and her team, and it's going amazingly right now. And so that's the hope and the faith that we have into this, is that, you know, we'll be able to go to the gas station and hear our language being spoken. So, big shout out to them guys.
Yeah, it is a thing that we need to take care of as a community. It is, I don't like to say being lost, because things like that are coming up now, and it's a good thing, but there aren't very many fluent speakers in a language. And Mirac and I, he knows a lot of ceremonial language, whereas I know conversational and words, but we're not fluent, no.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Following up on the language question, and being a person who is bilingual and who is raising my children bilingual in Portuguese and English, but I only have little kids, they're just 2 and 4. Do you find that your teenage daughter, is a little bit against? Do you find that there is a certain age where your kids are kind of, no, I'm no longer interested in learning, you know, my native language, or how is it going?
Yeah, my daughter went through that. She went to public school. My daughter's 6'1", and so she's an amazing volleyball and basketball player. And so She went to public school because she had an ability to be on these strong teams. And so in that process, she was into social life and things like that. And so she had lost interest. In high school now, she's a junior, she took a diversity and inclusion class. And now she's coming back to me with questions about language. And she's like, this is how you say this, right? And so it's coming back. So just allowing her to have that space and then allowing her to naturally come back to it was really good to see. And also personality-wise, our son, Marcane, he has a natural, like my husband, for singing and for remembering language. So it could be personality too.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you both so much for coming today. Appreciate it. I was wondering what connection the Oneida of Wisconsin have to the Oneida to the east, as well as the other nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. I mean, are there gatherings, smaller, larger, on occasion?
Yes.
Facebook groups.
There's an app you can download.
There's an app.
So every other year, every 2 years, what we hold is it's called the Good Message, and it breaks down into, goes back to Handsome Lake, Yotsi'nahkwa'talihahte, and the codes of Handsome Lake that we should live by, such as not acting with the 4 major wrongdoings: witchcraft, love medicine, alcohol, and abortion. So one man will stand up for 4 days and he'll preach. And they say, like, that's the only one, the only guy, if you stand up and you preach Galiwio, you're the only one that should tell somebody what to do or how to be doing it until you live by that. Everybody else, you know, the old saying, never walk on anybody's doorstep unless yours is clean. Okay, so with that, it'll go to each and every Haudenosaunee community all over the East. Canada, New York, Montreal, there's one way up there, a lot of Mohawks up there, all the way to us, okay, over here in Wisconsin. And so 4 days here, 4 days here, 4 days here, 4 days here. They call it the Galiwio Trail. And a lot of them in there are how we're supposed to hold ourselves every day, the 4 major wrongdoings, and how we're supposed to live our life continuing our identity, such as language and culture. So to answer your question, yes, we do get together. And it's amazing. It's a great time because you see a lot of people that you see every day at your community, but these other people come and you're like, hey, you look just like, are you related? You know, because we're all Oneida, right? And we look like each other, but you came 13 hours away and you look just like my uncle, you know. How does that work? So it's an amazing gathering time. And then the social dances, they go on for 2-3 hours, and you just hear all these variety of songs and these singers, they come out and the style of dance, and it's amazing.
A lot of laughter.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you all. I want to again thank our partners, University of Wisconsin Green Bay's First Nations program, as well as Door County Civility Project, and we hope to see all of you back here next Saturday morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.